So, you must be wondering, how long did I take to make this, and this, and this, and this, and there's nothing else, but yeah, it only took... So, in this video, I'll be giving you some insight as to how the 2023 Mass Dance video was made. I'll be going through the thought process, a little bit of filming, and most importantly, the editing. When Council first approached FilmsOck with this project, they were like, yeah, we booked the locations already, the rest is all yours. So, Council basically gave us creative freedom, which I'm actually quite thankful for. But the problem is, I'm not a creative person. So we hopped on a call and I asked, hi guys, is there like some sort of style or theme you're looking for, or... After some discussions, we had some sort of like a base idea. The theme of Orientation 2023 is like some sort of arcade thing. But how do you show an arcade when you're like in a school that has no arcade? I don't know.
Manhin, I was looking through your Instagram, right? And I think it would be pretty cool if we had like the Minecraft spawning thing that you did in one of them for like our mass dance. So maybe you could like spawn the dancers in. You think you could do that?
And then it hit me. Visual effects. So back in August, I did my first Blender visual effects shot, adding a Minecraft warden into my basement. Essentially, the premise is you take a video you film in real life and then you slap some CG character over it and boom, you have a CG character in real life. But if you just slap an image over the video, it doesn't really work because cameras are funny and there's this little thing called perspective. So what you need to do is somehow translate the camera's movement in the footage into your computer, or Blender in my case. Well, how you do that is with motion tracking. You give the computer tracking points, then the computer does some computer math things to solve the camera motion. Easy, right? No. It was horrendous to edit, but it turned out okay, I hope. So from this past experience and a lot of YouTube videos, I learned a few things. First, you can't have a low contrast environment because it's difficult to track. Second, you need most of the scene to be in focus. And third, you need objects that allow for depth. And now with my newfound knowledge of motion tracking, I told Council, how about I add a Pac-Man in between the dancers? Council was like, yes. And when the call ended, I set off on my rough plan for the video. So, the initial plan was 2 VFX shots, Pac-Man between the dancers and Pac-Man chasing some kiddo. The rest would be like a normal dance video just like the previous years. Shouldn't be too hard, I thought. Day 1 of filming arrived. I wasn't there for like half of it because I was running CCA, but the rest of the crew did quite a good job. Now I'm sure you're tired of hearing my voice, so here's some funny BTS clips for ya.
Is it on?
Yeah,
is it recording?
Yeah, it's on.
BTS. Just pretty fast.
Hey, wait, you gotta brief them or like what? Just do that. Wait, I can't.
Brief them. Just filming everyone. Hi. Say hi. Hi Henry. Hi Cordelia. Jeremiah. Joyce, Lourdes. Can I zoom this in? Oh my god, I'm having so much fun.
No, that thing I know.
Oh, that's a. Oh, I forgot.
Holy cow.
I forgot that's like a rig for.
Whoa! Wait, what?
It's got full zoom.
Woo!
Yeah, there's a joystick you can control.
Joyce! I'm controlling this with a joystick.
Day 2 was finally time for the visual effects shots. After we filmed all the other locations, the black box was the final one, where all the visual effects shots were planned to be done. First shot was the Pac-Man middle scene. It would be the camera moving across the dancers in some kind of like arc. But there were immediately some problems. The black box is completely empty, so there's literally nothing to track. We tried putting some tape like in the movies, but it was kind of pointless. There were chairs in the black box, so I thought, why not arrange them around the dancers to provide some objects for depth. Some in front, some at the back. So it kind of looked promising until the floor. There was nothing to track on the floor. The tape would have worked, but the floor is reflective, so the lights would block out the tape, causing some problems in the track. Now this shot was no longer possible to make here. time was running out. We had to leave by 7 p.m. So I decided to scrap the shot and just move on to the static ones. You see, the reason why static shots are so lame is because, well, they're static. You need to just align the floor and lighting in Blender to the footage, and bam, you have a CG character. Easy. On set, console suggested we also do a dance floor scene where the black box floor would become a dance floor. So we just quickly filmed the Pac-Man chase and the dance floor scene just in the nick of time. But I really wanted my funny moving camera Pac-Man shot, so I made a last resort to the canteen. I thought the tables there might add some depth and the floor is probably not reflective. So on set, it looked pretty good. I was kind of happy with the footage and we didn't want to hold back the dancers so long. So we called it a day and filming was finally done. Welcome to Premiere Pro, where the price is too high and yeah, the price is too high. So first things first, I was going to work out the sequence. Basically the cuts and the choice of scenes to put in the video. But before that, I needed to sync everything to the music. You can do this in Premiere Pro by simply pressing this synchronize button and bam, your clips are synced. So for some reason, I thought syncing all the locations separately, then cutting out segments into the actual sequence was a great idea. But 2 hours later, I realized the sequence was going nowhere. It was confusing and annoying to cut out the segments and resync them all the time. So I decided to redo the whole thing again. This time I synchronized each location first, then layered them on top of each other. This way, all of the footage should be synchronized over each other, then the rest would be simple, picking out the best clip used in the final sequence. But the more I edited, the more problems surfaced. You see, we had quite a few oversights when filming this. To explain how this happened, we first need to look at how we filmed it. So the idea is there are two groups of dancers, yellow and purple. There will be two camera angles, one static and one moving. Each group of dancers would dance once for the static angle and then again for the moving camera. The first oversight is we didn't make sure the dancers were like aligned. So you can see here that the dancer is blocking the one at the back, so we couldn't use that footage. This happened quite a lot of times, so it made the selection of clips quite difficult. Another oversight is we didn't standardize the zoom and the position of the camera. So you can see in the first two clips, like the background changes. So yeah! Now all of you future filmsock people out there, you better make sure you don't make the same mistake. I'll be watching. After 3 drafts of the sequence, it was finally time for the hardest part. Visual effects. From the initial 2 VFX shots, now there were a total of 5 VFX shots. The intro, outro, Pac-Man chase scene, dance floor scene, finally the Pac-Man middle scene. The hardest one would be the Pac-Man middle scene because I need to motion track it, so I started off with this one first. Little did I know the torment I would experience. I tried retracking again and again and again, and even tried it for another take, but it just wouldn't work. You see, in order for the track to work, first you need points in the footage that are actually trackable, like the corner of a light or the intersection between tiles. In the middle of a tile wouldn't work because it's a computer, it can only see pixels, it doesn't know what is a tile. Above your tracking points, you also need them to be in different areas, so they can't be all on the same plane because
If they're all on one wall, for example, the computer has trouble knowing if, say, the camera's just rotating around or if it's actually moving around because the pattern of dots stays the same.
now it looks like there's quite a lot of tracking points here, right? Yes, but a lot of them wouldn't work. Here I'm auto-detecting features because I'm lazy and we need as much data as possible so we can clean it up later and keep all the good ones. So after like 50 attempts, this would be my workflow. First, detect features, then delete all the points on the dancers because those would mess up the track. Then track forward. When the points disappear because they move out of the screen, I stop the track, rewind a bit, then add more points. Repeat this process for the whole video forwards, and then do it again but backwards. And now I have a bunch of data and my laptop is melting. So in the graph here, I think it shows the average pixel error of the tracking points. If it's further away from the middle, it means it's drifting a lot, which means it's bad. So all I gotta do is filter out the extreme points and then solve. Eventually, when I don't get a 1 million solve error, I try to clean the tracking points up even more. By removing the tracks with a reprojection error of 5 and all the points are gone. I'm still new to this, so I don't know exactly how it works and what points are good for tracking. So this was like 10 hours of just retracking over and over and over and over again. Until I finally gave up and went back to an old save. What? For some reason, I had a decent track in one of my old attempts, so not all hope was lost. I added more tracking points and tracked it again, filtering out the bad ones. Finally, solve error was not bad. You can see how little tracking points remained after the cleanups, but why weren't there any points on the floor? This was another oversight on my part. The dancers were, well, dancing, so when they move, they will block the floor, killing the tracking points there. But there was a small segment of the footage where the floor was visible, and that's already enough. So I tracked 3 points there, and now I have a floor. After repositioning the floor a bit, now the Pac-Man finally looks like it's actually in the canteen. But wait, how did I get this Pac-Man model? Originally, the plan was to source for a free Pac-Man model online, because I suck at modeling, but there was no rigged model available, so I can't animate it. So eventually I decided to just make my own, and after hours of work and having Blender crash on me, making me lose the entire model because I forgot to save it, it was finally done. Next, I had to animate the Pac-Man. With my Minecraft animating experience, I think it looked okay. Now that the Pac-Man is finally done, it was time to render it out. I started the render at 1 AM and somehow still fell asleep before waking up at 2:30 AM when it was done to turn it off. After it's all rendered out, the next thing to do is crop out the dancers in front of the Pac-Man. Process called rotoscoping, so that they are actually in front of the Pac-Man. Sounds easy enough. With the rotobrush tool in After Effects, it would surely take no time. The rotobrush didn't really work. The problem is, we shot at a shutter speed of like 1/50, which is standard for 25 FPS footage, but the problem is, there would be motion blur, and quite a lot of it since the dancers were moving quite fast. So, with the motion blur, the rotobrush cannot tell what is the arm since it's blur. Not only that, the rotobrush cannot tell the difference between the hair and the background because both are dark colored. And above that, for every single change made using the rotobrush, it needs to reload the whole footage, making it super time consuming. So I decided not to use the rotobrush and do it the old fashioned way. manual masking with the pen tool. And so I set off on my arduous journey. 330 frames of endless torment, staring at these dancers for hours, copying every single frame. You would think that manually doing it would solve the motion blur problem because we humans are smarter than AI, for now at least. But actually, the issue with motion blur is that it kind of spreads the pixels across the background, essentially making the arm translucent. So if I were to crop out everything, the background can be seen and it would look very weird. Which is why if you look closely at some areas of the dancers, it looks a bit weird. But that's the best I could do. The first VFX shot was finally done. Next up was the Pac-Man chase scene. This one is much simpler because it's a static angle. All I had to do was align the floor manually to the scene, animate the Pac-Man, replicate the lights, and yay, it was done. Next up was the intro and outro scene. The concept was much simpler since this is a fully CG shot. I just made an empty black room in Blender and found an arcade machine model online, then animated the camera to move towards it. The hard part was the lighting. I wanted to make this kind of spotlight thing, but the rendering for it was quite difficult. You see, in Blender there are two rendering engine kind of things, Eevee and Cycles. Generally, Cycles looks much better, but it takes a lot longer to render. So obviously, I would try doing the spotlight effect in Cycles using volume scatter material to make some kind of fog thing. So I rendered it out overnight and it looked terrible! Turns out Cycles is bad at handling volumetric lighting, or because I suck at Blender, but after quite a lot of searching, I came across a tutorial that looked quite promising. So the idea is, since Eevee does volumetric lighting so much quicker and better, but the lighting and reflections in Cycles are better, why not you just combine both of them? Integrate them, if you will. So first you render it out in Cycles, but without the volumetric fog. Next, you change the materials of everything to just black, add the volumetric fog, and render it in Eevee. Now in Premiere, you can just layer the Eevee render over the Cycles render, then change the blend mode of the Eevee render to screen, which basically removes the blacks from it. Now you have the Cycles rendering, but overlaid with the Eevee volumetric lighting. Very smart. And after some funny After Effects editing magic, we finally get this intro. I actually did the outro after the dance floor scene, but the rendering process was similar to this, so I'm not going to talk about it. Now, for the dance floor scene, we needed a dance floor. So I found some tutorials and made a pretty sick dance floor in Blender, but the emission material, which basically makes it glow, would not render for some reason. I spent like an hour trying to figure out why it wouldn't render, but then it turns out I keyframed the strength of the emission to be nothing. So there was no problem at all, except for my stupidity. Anyways, the dance floor was ready. Now for the dancers. Remember how I was suffering when frame by frame masking the Pac-Man middle scene? Well, I have to do the same for this, except it was all 6 dancers. So I got my beloved production manager, Lee Feng, to help roughly rotoscope out the dancers, like a day or two before he went to Japan. My man saved me another 12 hours of work. But note the keyword, another. The problem with our footage was it was shot in the black box and the dancers were wearing black pants, so the rotobrush had a lot of trouble telling what was pants, what was background, and what was hair. And also apparently rotobrush doesn't know what a sock is. The Feng's rotoscope had most of the dancers already cropped out, but there was quite a few areas where the rotobrush died. So I spent an entire day fine-tuning the rotoscope, after every few frames needing to wait for the rotobrush to reload the whole thing, taking 1 year off my life for every rotobrush stroke I added to the footage. finally it was done. Now I just added a stroke effect as an outline to hide the not perfect rotoscope and added a glow effect on the dancers. Then I placed the dance floor behind the dancers and added a DDR overlay behind the dancers on the projector screen. Rendered it out, and after more After Effects editing magic, we have this.
This is dedicated to you.
Now, the whole video is almost done. Hopped on a call with my exco and we started color grading because I'm color deficient. Now I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. After adding the credits, I sent the first completed version to console and then made a few like minor updates after that. Overall, this was quite an interesting experience. I had a lot of fun making this video. And now normally people would say it's about the journey and not the destination. But when it comes to editing, it's about the destination and not the journey.
We're running out of love. I can feel a change.